We will make a start. Welcome back to the table, elected members. So welcome to the future Napier Committee. I have apologies from Tiwana. Do I have a mover and a seconder for those? Moved by Councillor Crown, seconded by Councillor Tariha. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried. Call for any conflicts of interest. There being none on today's paper, I will ask if there's any additional announcements by the Mayor. There being none, I will call for any minor matters that anyone would like to discuss, matters not on the agenda. Those being none. Any announcements by management? There being none, I'll ask for a mover that our minutes from the future Napier Committee held on Thursday, the 11th of April, be taken as a true and accurate record. Moved by Councillor Gregg, seconded by Councillor Crystal. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried. All right. We have a couple of agenda items this morning. The first is our resource consent activity update, and I'd like to welcome Nick McCool to talk us through this paper. Welcome, Nick.
Good morning.
Morena.
Since March update, there has been a 29% decrease in the number of applications being received compared to the same time 12 months ago. The mixture of applications remains consistent. We have issued 20% more consents than the same time last year, so they've been quite busy getting the consents out the door. At times, the resource consents planners have had to extend processing times under Section 37. Consents of interest, we have 250 Westminster Avenue, receiving approximately 350,000 cubes of cyclone-related material. This is a Napier City Council application. 530 State Highway 51, it's a mixed-use development that's been come back in, and it's for 100 units, 9 industrial workshops, and 1 on-site manager's accommodation. I'll go into further detail about these ones later on. In regards to the digital billboard, it remains under assessment. 15 Owen Street also remains under assessment. 42 Whanarangi Road remains under assessment. Cray Street remains under assessment. 61 Franklin Road also remains under assessment. 11 Lever Street, we have made a decision, and that is to publicly notify the application. I'll talk to that in a little bit more detail in this report. And then 162 Waghorn Street, that remains under assessment. In regards to Koinga Ora, the number of applications have been issued in recent time. So more specifically, in regards to 250 Westminster Ave, bulk earthworks, the proposal involves receiving approximately 350,000 metres cubed of cyclone-related silt as a suitable fill material to carry out the bulk earthworks. One of the key aspects of this proposal is the truck movements, with the applicant seeking a maximum of 120 movements per day and with a peak of 12 trucks per hour. The applicant has sought to restrict the movements to between the hours of 7:30 a.m. to 5:30 p.m, so fairly standard sort of working hours. And this will be a key consideration for the processing planner moving forward. 530 State Highway 51 is a mixed-use development. As mentioned before, it's subject to a previous resource consent application, which was subsequently withdrawn. It proposes 1 self-storage building of around 1,000 square metres, containing the 100 storage units, 9 industrial workshops, 1 two-storey manager's unit, security fencing, parking, a new left in from State Highway 51, on-site wastewater systems and stormwater systems. So in regard to 11 Lever Street, that has been processing for a wee while, but we've come to a decision. It relates to a property on the corner of Lever Street and Demet Street, and is zoned mixed use, and is located within the Iron Pot character area and is a Group 3 heritage building under the operative City of Napier District Plan. The site contains a residential dwelling and comprises an area of 502 metres squared. The applicant proposed to remove the existing cottage and construct 3 new 3-storey attached dwellings, which are to be held in their own certificates of title, and there's a diagram of what they would look like. Through going through the process, it was identified that it would have adverse effects on the heritage values of the wider Iron Pot character area and Coronation Street character area. And as a result, we are required by the Resource Management Act to publicly notify that application. To date, we have not received the notification deposit, so notification has not been formally made. And that is all I have for you today.
Thank you, Nick. We'll move into questions. I've got a couple, if that's all right, Nick. First one, you mentioned we've had a downturn in applications
That is
in
correct.
general. Are you envisioning that that will have a positive impact on our processing timeframes?
Yes, yes, certainly.
Okay.
And the downturn appears to be consistent from what we've heard from Hastings and Hawke's Bay Regional as well.
Thank you. Rachel.
May I add that we have had quite sustained high levels of consenting for a long time, and this is, while we've had some small fluctuations, this is probably our more significant downturn. In terms of our impact on consenting, it does also matter the complexity of consents that we get through as to how taxing that is on the team. But we do also know that there is a significant pipeline of work coming through from developers, and so it will be interesting to see if this downturn is sustained.
Thank you. That's helpful context. A couple of specific questions on the applications of note in your report. So the first one, the Awatoto property, could you tell us what activity status the residential activities are on that site? I think your report says it's discretionary in the main industrial zone. Is that correct?
Yes, it is. And that relates to being a single dwelling associated with the development itself, being a caretaker's type of accommodation rather than multiple dwellings for residential use that's not associated with the activity.
Right, so associated with the industrial activity. Got you, thank you, that was helpful. And my last question is in regard to the Lever Street application. Are you able to advise us if there's been a request for independent commissioners on that, or if they proceed, that will come to hearings committee in the first instance?
At this stage, they haven't moved beyond notification, so we'd make that determination later on.
So no request for independent commissioner
No, not
as
at
of
this
yet?
stage.
Okay, thank you. I'll open the floor if there's any other questions. Councillor Brown.
Yeah, kia ora. Through the chair, this is possibly more of a broader question around how we're currently assessing natural hazards. So understand with our new district plan, we're looking at doing a natural hazards chapter. How does something, for example, like the 530 State Highway 51 thing, how do natural hazards get assessed currently in that process?
Nick's probably more technical on this one, but as I understand, until the natural hazards chapter is notified, we will be operating under the operative district plan, and Nick might be able to talk about the operative district plan around.
Yes, that is correct. So under the operative district plan, we do have the ability to look into natural hazards, and as a discretionary activity, our discretion is not restricted, so we can look at all relevant matters. So that definitely includes natural hazards, and we are able to incorporate the newer data around some of the coastal hazard modelling and things like that. So there will certainly be a key consideration for this one, as well as the Franklin Road application.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Simpson.
Yeah, through you, Madam Chair. Just a question from, well, I've actually got a couple of questions. The downturn, the decrease, 29% of the applications, the resource consent process is a cost recovery process, isn't it? Does that impact the staff levels that we need to carry? How does that, you know, what sort of impact does that have for us around planning, staffing, if there's suddenly a surge of developments coming through? How do we carry those costs?
Thank you, Councillor Simpson. Good question. Rachel.
Yeah, it is a good question, and it's one that we're challenged by. So even though we might have less consents coming in, the complexity could still be high and be quite taxing on the number of staff. We tend to, hold resourcing at a mid-level. So we don't resource for the height of our consenting nor for the lowest amount. And that means that in times where we have high consent numbers, we are able to use our consultant planners to buffer and in times when there are lower numbers, we have sufficient staff internally to be able to manage the workload. So that's sort of how we manage those fluctuations, by sort of resourcing at that midpoint. But, as you know, we've had challenges in recruiting planners. It's a really hard skill set to recruit in New Zealand at the moment. So we've probably had a smaller team than we would like. And so a lot of the overflow has gone to our consultant planners for these higher periods. It will be quite good for the team to have a period where there's not so much urgency.
Fair enough. Thank you for that explanation. And can I just ask someone to describe for me what a Section 37 special circumstance might be?
I'll leave that one to Nick.
Yes. So under the Resource Management Act, we have 20 working days to process all applications. As you can imagine, some applications are quite straightforward, being like a yard infringement to the road, while some applications, like Whiringi Road for 400 plus units, is more complex. So the Resource Management Act allows us to double the timeframes to 40 working days through something called special circumstances, and that requires it to have a degree of complexity, such as Whiringi Road, where we're needing to get engineering design, urban design, multiple inputs, quite large complex proposals. We can also talk to the applicant and ask for Section 37, and often we found that they're quite willing to engage with us and give us Section 37s for like small periods of time for maybe reviewing conditions, or if we're waiting for information from themselves, and they might be willing to give, for example, a 10-day extension.
Okay, so that's all right. So it's basically an opportunity to look at the scale of the project and size it accordingly. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I think it's a good question around when applications are put on hold. And Nick, would it be fair to say that we also use various sections of the RMA, for instance, Section 91, Section 92, Section 37A, to put applications on hold through various means throughout a processing timeframe?
Yes, we certainly do. Section 92 for additional information, because some of our applications are deficient, we need to ask questions. And Section 91 if we need to get regional consents, further consents that are identified. So yes, there's certainly a number of mechanisms under the Resource Management Act that are available to us.
And if
Councillor
I may
Simpson.
indulge with my last question around the silt movements in and out of parklands. I assume it's not stated in here that obviously the trucks have to be covered when they're transporting the dust, and I assume that there's conditions around suppressing the dust on site to avoid dust being blown all through the neighbouring subdivision?
Certainly standard practice would be to wet the soil to keep dust down on site. Unfortunately, I cannot comment on trucks being covered. That tends to be more for the haulage company themselves to decide. And I guess it also depends on the moisture content of the material being transported. If it is particularly dusty material, then it may well need to be covered. And we'll be having a construction management plan and a traffic management plan will be required as through the resource consent as well to address these matters.
And just a final technicality, just a question around truck movements. Is a truck movement a single truck, or is it is a truck movement a truck and a trailer? How is that classified? In other words, questions have been raised at the moment about volume of traffic in that area.
In this case, the applicant has identified that a movement being both the entry and exit of a truck.
Mm-hmm. And a trailer would be included in that, or would
Yes,
trailers
it'll be
reduce the number of truck movements?
I understand it's predominantly going to be truck and trailer to try and reduce the number of truck movements going to and from.
Thank you.
So just to clarify, Nick, does entry and exit mean a return journey? Would that be, or is that hard to say?
In this case, I've identified it as a return journey, so going in and then going out as
Yeah.
one truck movement.
Yeah.
Some applicants will look at it as in a different way and say one in and then one out, and that's two.
Yeah.
But in this case, they've gone for a full movement being one, and so that's 120 maximum trucks going in and out.
So the residents will see 240 trucks
Going up.
effectively, because they won't know that it's been there and coming back, you know? Yeah.
And I guess the on-site restrictions will also limit what they can take, so that is a maximum that they will apply for, but the day-to-day operations of actually being able to handle, spread, and have that many trucks will be limited, so they talk about an average of around 80 movements per day. But yeah, it is a considerable number, and it is something that we'll be carefully considering through the resource consent process.
Thank you, Nick. We were in a good position there, being the applicant for this as well, being able to discuss it in a little bit more detail. So thank you for indulging us with that. Are there any other, Councillor Bogue?
Through you, Madam Chair. On the summary table, the only developer that's identified is Kāinga Ora, and I wondered why the others are not identified.
Could we, which others are you, I'll just clarify the question, Max.
The question is, on the summary table, there's all the applicants, all the applications, and the only one that where the actual applicant is identified is the one under Kāinga Ora. And I wondered why the others weren't identified.
Yeah, I can probably speak to that, because that was a direction that came from Council early on when we first initiated this report, is could we identify the social housing applications from Kāinga Ora. I think at that time there was quite a number and there was a level of interest from councillors. So I'm happy to take the table's guidance on whether that interest is still there. I think the team have been carrying on with that essentially since we first asked for that delineation to be made.
Just responding to that, I can understand and sympathise with that, but it would also be interesting to know, there's some major developments here, it would be interesting to know who the developers are. That's how I feel. Is that available on the website or anywhere else?
It's publicly available. Could we take that on board, Maxine, and we'll have a conversation about that ahead of next pre-agenda and just see what information is publicly available. So just to clarify, you're comfortable with, or the guidance you've got is that the detail is good, but it would be good, well, the list is comprehensive enough for you. It is the detail on who the applicant is that's of particular interest.
Particularly some of the big developments.
Okay.
It would just be interesting to understand why. Like, why would we want to understand who the developers are, and if there's a good reason, we can look into that. But it would be a question of why that is needed.
We'll take that question on board and we'll have a conversation about that ahead of next papers being presented. Councillor Crown.
Through you, Madam Chair. My understanding is that we receive a report on that almost weekly through the planning mailbox. Is that? Does everyone get that? Yes.
Resource consent is currently being processed.
Yeah, that's correct. So elected members do receive a comprehensive list of every application that is lodged weekly as well. So these are of particular interest where we ask our team to come and speak to us about them. So perhaps we could build that into our conversation as well, that level of existing information that we're receiving. Thank you, councillors. I'll just do a final whip around. If there's no more questions, I will ask for a mover to accept the paper. Councillor Tariha, seconded by Councillor Crystal. Do either of you wish to speak? Cal?
No, it's fine. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Nick. I will put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, I would now like to welcome Georgina King, who is going to come and speak to us on our second paper, which is an update on the Waka Hub project. Also, Alex, welcome.
Kia ora koutou. Called Georgina King, tōku ingoa. With me today is Alex Burke, our Strategic Programs Lead. I'm happy to take the report as read. However, I will take you through a bit of a slideshow to just explain how we've got to where we are today. So the purpose of the report is to provide Council with an update on the Waka Hub project and to seek your approval to develop the Waka Hub and permanent mooring for Te Matua Māui waka adjacent to the Napier Sailing Club, and to approve the preparation of a concept design for the Waka Hub and mooring at that location. So just by way of background, the Iron Pot, or the Waka Hub, was first identified as a location at the Iron Pot in the Ahuriri Estuary and Coastal Edge Master Plan in 2018. And this plan detailed the transformation of the Iron Pot at that stage to accommodate the permanent mooring for wakahaurua and spaces for events and associated opportunities to tell this area's rich history and culture of the area. And that master plan underwent a significant amount of community and mana whenua engagement and was written in partnership with Mana Ahuriri, which was a pre-treaty settlement entity at that time. In 2019, we then prepared and developed an inner harbour plan, and the idea of the Waka Hub took on more iterations or further defining of the area as an initiative. Those further details underwent significant consultation in October 2022 with mana whenua and key stakeholders, and the inner harbour plan was actually adopted in May 2022. In that same year, Council also allocated 2.2 million in the Better Off Fund for the Waka Hub itself, and an optioneering report was undertaken in 2023 looking at positions within the Iron Pot for the Waka Hub itself. Those estimates that came out of that optioneering report far exceeded the project budget and allocated within the Better Off Fund and in the LTP at the time. The primary contributor being the enabling works required in order to construct or develop the Waka Hub in the Iron Pot itself. So in light of that, we have undergone a re-evaluation of the location of the Waka Hub. So Council, the objective behind this initiative is to celebrate our unique culture of celestial navigation and to provide the opportunity for our community and those visiting the city to learn about what makes us special. The Waka Hub project is a manifestation of Council's vision of enabling places and spaces where everybody wants to be. Underpinning Council's vision are 5 strategic priorities, and fundamental to the creation of the Waka Hub are 4. They are nurturing authentic relationships, places and spaces for all, a great visitor destination, and being a financially sustainable council. So nurturing authentic relationships is about meaningful relationships with our community, stakeholders and partners to ensure Napier's voice is heard. A key mechanism to deliver this strategic priority is adopting and implementing a co-design process for the delivery of the Waka Hub. Council have been working in partnership with Aotearangi Trust on this mahi since 2022 and are fully committed to continuing to foster and nurture our partnership with mana whenua in this important kaupapa. Creating places and spaces for all means to provide quality environments for our community and to enjoy and be proud of, as well as working with others to ensure that these areas are the best that they can be. This has the overflow effect for our visitors, community and tourists as quality facilities and unique spaces that celebrate our culture and heritage translates to a great visitor destination. And being a great visitor destination is about showcasing and celebrating what sets us apart from other parts of New Zealand. Therefore, we must aspire to being world-class and attracting visitors to Napier and encouraging both visitor spend and also investment. And being financially sustainable means maximising the benefits we are providing to our community while working in a way that allows us to continue to do the same for future generations. We need to do our best to find cost savings while taking care of what we have, and developing the Waka Hub adjacent to the Napier Sailing Club is a great example of how we can do this. So, as I mentioned, the optioneering report identified some issues associated with the Iron Pot, and so we undertook a site assessment or a series of site assessments for multiple locations within the inner harbour. And Alex is just going to take you through that process.
So we initially identified 8 sites within the inner harbour that were possible locations for Te Mata a Maui, and we undertook a pass-fail criteria on all of them, which reduced them to 4, and that covered off the size of the site, safe berthage and manoeuvrability around the site. So that was really, whether we had enough room for the Waka itself, what the tidal movement was like, whether or not it was dangerous or difficult to moor there, and how easy it was to get the Waka in and out. So the four that we then went on to a slightly more detailed evaluation matrix were the Iron Pot, the current site of the Waka Hub, Te Matawa Maui, the Sailing Club, and 705 Miani Key. That evaluation matrix considered profile and activation potential of the site, te ao Māori, so cultural significance, the connection to the water, the quality of the water, displacement effects of nearby infrastructure and other activities, so the impact, so potentially noise, that kind of thing, and the security of the site. Connectivity, so easily accessible by foot or by car, the functionality of it, accessibility to water, whether or not it was capable of hosting events and additional wakahurura, storage and maintenance spaces. Again, berthage and manoeuvrability, so the navigation in and out, and the ease of development, so whether or not the land was owned by council or what a lease might look like, and what other regulatory or compliance issues there might have been. So that identified us with two sites, which was the Napier Sailing Club Spit, which is the blue area that you can see identified there, and 705 Miani Key. And those were evaluated further against criteria such as civil infrastructure, the cost of development, geotechnical issues, and marine infrastructure and the environment. And the result of that was the Napier Sailing Club as being the most appropriate.
So this leads us back to the recommendation that we have in front of us today. We would like to develop a concept design for the Waka Hub in the preferred location. There is support for this from the Napier Sailing Club, and also Mana Ahuriri and Ngāti Paro have also provided their endorsement. A concept design is funded through the Better Off Fund, and it makes the Waka Hub shovel ready. So should budget not be available to undertake the entire development at once, it means that we could either undertake it in stages, or we could also look to seeking funding externally, either through council or via the trust, Aotearangi Trust, which would then enable us to pursue that initiative further. Is there any questions?
Thank you, team. I'll open the floor for questions. Councillor Bogue.
Yes, through you, Chair, and perhaps I'm asking you, at the Ngāma Nukunuku or Te Iwi meeting last week, this was carried from what I understand, and we don't have their minutes yet, but something was added?
Yes,
and
I
was
have that
wondering if we
recommendation.
could,
Through you, Madam Chair, the recommendation that came through from Ngāma Nukunuku o Te Iwi was to recommend to Council that the funding shortfall for this project be budgeted for or confirmed in the 3-year plan.
Thank you. I've got a couple of questions which I think would be helpful just to understand the context of the proposal. So the status of the land, could we talk about that?
So Council owns the land that we are proposing, which for the preferred site. That is the piece that is shown on in blue there is not currently leased to anybody. However, the Napier, it is recognised that there may be synergies with Napier Sailing Club, and they lease the remainder of the land to the south. So this lease itself could be redefined in order to accommodate the Waka Hub as well as Napier Sailing Club. And we're talking about working with the Napier Sailing Club to also rationalise their current function within the site that they lease.
So can I take away from that answer, be correct in thinking that we would, if we went ahead on this site, we would be looking to put a lease in place that would either be with the trust and or the Napier Sailing Club, and then I'm getting nods on that. So if we've got to that point, is there a proposed revenue stream from council, or are we proposing peppercorn, or has that been thought through whether or not there would be an income return?
So we're working with our property team on that, and that detail hasn't been ironed out yet. However, that is up for discussion as part of the conversation, both with Napier City Council, Napier Sailing Club and Aotearangi Trust.
you. Councillor Crystal.
If the budget, we can't get full budget, what's the appetite from the Trust to assist in the fundraising for this?
They have shown that this is definitely a positive move for them. The current mooring is actually subject to vandalism and a lot of people after hours just jumping onto the waka itself. So their desire is very strong to move from where they are, and there is absolutely opportunity. They identify the opportunity to be able to seek funding if we have something to go to people with, hence wanting to get this design developed now, to be able to take that. Yes.
Thank you.
Can I just clarify in response to that budget question? So of the 5.5 million that's proposed between the two funding sources, what percentage of the total build is that? Is that 100%?
The report that we have as part of our site assessment criteria and the second stage of development, it's been assessed that the estimate, this is a conservative estimate, to develop the site at the Napier Sailing Club would be 6.2, so there is a small shortfall. 5.5 is what we have in total between the Better Off Fund and what we have proposed in the 3-year plan, so there would be a shortfall there.
Thank you. Councillor Simpson.
Yeah, through you, Madam Chair, that's where my questioning sort of starts. Just want to start with the Better Off funding, 2.2 million from the government. Is there a deadline as to when that money needs to be committed?
2027.
Okay, so we've got a little bit of scope.
Currently, yes.
Yes.
Yep. The 3.3 million, that's currently included in the proposed?
That is included in the proposed 3-year plan, yes.
So we're not finding that money, it's the 1.2 million that is takes us up to 6.2 million that is the shortfall.
Yes. 700.
700,000.
Yeah. No, I've got 1.3 million. The current budget, 2.2 plus 3.3.
It's 5.5.
5.5. 6.2 is what the, oh, sorry, no, you're correct. Yes, 700,000, yeah. Which is 1% on rates.
No, be loan funded. Loan funded.
So could I just seek some clarification? So the resolutions that you've got in terms of officers' recommendations in front of us are around approving a preferred site and around approving a concept design.
Correct.
So you're not asking us to approve a total budget today?
No.
So those questions were just for context of where this decision-making milestone
Yes.
is in the process. What is the cost of the concept design, which you're asking us to approve today?
We haven't gone out to with our RFP, request for proposal yet, so we don't know what that is, but we estimate it would be around 15%, or was it 18%, of the total project. Typically for design services, that is how those tenders get structured. It's generally a percentage of the overall construction cost.
Sorry, just while we're on that topic, I'm not great at quick maths, but
I
that's
just did it.
going
So
to...
it's well and truly covered by the Better Off funding portion.
Yes.
Okay,
Approximately 1 to 1.2 million for the concept design, and that's based on 20%.
Yeah,
With my-
so it would be a lot lower
Being
than
counted on
that.
the wind on the high side.
Yes.
it's great to have accountants around the table, thank you. So just to clarify, if we approve the officer's recommendation, we would press go on developing the concept design,
Correct.
which would be funded from the Better Off
Yes,
portion.
that's correct.
Okay, thank you. Question, no, clarified over here. Rachel.
So that any further funding decisions from council-funded portion of the development and design is for you to make it your 3-year plan decision-making time. So this is just really to proceed with the concept design, which can be funded through the Better Off funding.
Mayor Wise.
Thank you, through the chair, and probably a slight divergence, but do we know, has the trust made a submission to the 3-year plan with regards
they
to
have.
this process?
Yes, they have.
Excellent, thank you.
Councillor Mawson.
You mentioned in your presentation spaces in place for, and also I appreciate part of the reason that we're looking to swap our move or appreciate before we get to the design, it's a bit sort of moot, but yeah, to me it looks like it's actually worse for security. I mean, if they look at, would there be big fences up, or would the waka be housed in a building? So that people can't see it?
Predominantly, the issues that they're experiencing at the moment relate to alcohol-related people, people who have been along West Quay, for example. And so it's typically, they're not anticipating that there would be the same level of vandalism or issues if they were to be moved away from West Quay.
Councillor Bogue.
Thank you, through you, Madam Chair. With the extra addition to the resolution that we've got in front of us from the Ngā Manukunuku o Te Iwi Committee, is that in fact endorsing or showing support for the submission that's been made to the long-term plan?
Yeah, happy to clarify that. So the conversation at Ngā Manukunuku was the committee's support for funding, allocation, or a process to be set for how to get the funding in the LTP. So whether or not council funded it or supported applications to other funding authorities at LTP or 3-year plan deliberations.
So it's not sort of conflict of interest with, or predetermination from council members who were there on the actual submission that's coming to us?
No, so it was a recommendation from that committee of council to council.
Should we be then voting on that as well, if it's a recommendation to us?
At council deliberations on the 3-year plan, yes, that's the decision-making point that they've referred their recommendation to.
Thank you.
All right, one final question from myself, and then I have Councillor Tariha. If we are using the Better Off funding portion for Resolution Part B, being that we haven't gone to market, is there any risk that we come in over? I think it's well within, but would it be worthwhile having in the resolution that we are approving on the basis that it's covered within the Better Off funding portion?
Sure. Yes, we could do that.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Councillor Tariha?
I'm just happy to move.
Are you happy to move with that suggested addition of C?
Yes.
Thank you. So I'm looking at a C, that the funding for the concept design be from the Better Off funding allocation. Do I have a seconder for the motion? Seconded by Mayor Wise. A close call with Councillor Taylor. Sorry, Councillor Taylor. I will pass to you, Councillor Tariha, if you would like to speak to the motion.
Kia ora, thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Kōrua. Just as I understand it, is the safest preferred option. Current location exposes it to vandalism, and partnering with the Napier Sailing Club will be a good opportunity for the waka crew. And yeah, kia ora.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Mayor Wise.
Thank you, through the chair. Yes, very happy to support the next phase of this project. This is certainly aligned to our council vision of enabling places and spaces for everyone to enjoy and utilise, both locals and visitors alike, and it does create some incredible opportunities to tell our story and our history. So it's very exciting, and also working in partnership with Mana Whenua. I'm very keen to explore further what that might look like as well, which we will have the opportunity to do that through our 3-year plan deliberations and as we work our way through the project. But thank you for all the work that's been done to date. I know that it's been a lot, and a really well-written report and paper to us today. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'll open up if there's any other members who would like to speak for or against the motion. There being none, I will put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried. Thank you, team.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That brings us to the end of our future Napier committee. I'd ask everyone to stand for our closing karakia. Kia whiki ora, te kaha, te te māramatanga, i ngā wā katoa, te hei, mauri ora. Thank you.